Okay, let's call to order this meeting, this special meeting of the Montara Water and Sanitary District Board of Directors. It's August 8th, 2023. It's 10:05 a.m. Welcome to Bill Call, Director Decker.
Aye.
Director Slater Carter.
Yes,
Director
present.
Stoffy.
Present.
Director Young.
Present.
And Director Boyd is present, so all present and accounted for. Welcome. Today we are here primarily to have our final workshop discussion on our transition to at-large or from at-large by division-based elections. We're going to be looking at possible maps. In the coming meeting, we're in what's that, in 1 week, 2 weeks? When is our next meeting after this one? We'll be voting to adopt a map, and that is, we're on a pretty much lockdown schedule on that. So today is the opportunity to really hash this out and propose any changes that we think might be necessary. We hope we've got some members of the public who are going to weigh in on this. We've had some participation so far, and it's all been very valuable. So with that said, let's see. Let's begin. Do we have any oral comments for anything that's not on the agenda? Not seeing any. Let's move on to the public hearing. Review and possible action concerning transition from at-large to by division-based elections.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. You already gave a pretty good introduction into the topic. We've been working through this for quite some time. This is the last public hearing where we can actually make changes to the map or maps that we have in front of us. At the next board meeting, we want to adopt a final version. So scheduled for August 17, another public hearing, but that would be only to adopt the final version. Elizabeth Stitt has been helping us in the past through this process. We have Paul Mitchell here tonight, who's gonna just pick up where Elizabeth left off. And Paul, if I just may ask to hand this over to you for the presentation of our current maps that we have and what we've been doing so far.
Great, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and go through a presentation that's similar to what Liz showed last time. Hopefully we can kind of answer some questions at the beginning. And then if there are people who are watching from the public who haven't been to one of these before, we will just kind of like briefly go over each of the criterion. So we're all kind of talking from the same page here. So everybody can see this presentation, right? Thumbs up, somebody?
Yes.
Great, thank you. So first off, the things I'm going to talk about is first off, kind of how the redistricting or districting works and some of those principles that are used in drawing lines, go over the previous draft maps and then this new map that was discussed and put together at your last hearing, and then discuss next steps. So first off, you're doing a districting process, and the districting process for an agency of your size is problematic. Let's put it really clear. When you have an agency that is roughly 5,000 people and you're breaking it into districts, you're going to have a lot of oddities and imperfections in the districts because of what we're dealing with the census data, the geography of the census blocks, even some of the conversation I heard in the last meeting and then I heard as you guys were preparing, things like, why can't they draw the lines behind the houses instead of drawing the lines along the streets? A lot of that is just the census data we're given. When you're drawing a congressional district, with 700,000 people in it, it's a lot easier to move something over and keep a neighborhood together. When you're drawing districts that are 1,000 or 1,100 people in them and trying to squeeze them in with these census blocks that were made for whatever weird reason, the census decided to make these blocks whatever shape they are, it is not fun. So I want to acknowledge that this is a harder process for you than if we were to say drawing a county redistricting versus a city redistricting of 50,000 people versus a agency of 5,000 people. The first rule of redistricting is that districts should be relatively equal size. And this was discussed at your last hearing, but it has to be based on the people from the decennial census. There can be errors in the census. Some group might even say or have data to show that they are more people than are in the census, but the law restricts us to only using the census. And it's not just a state law, it's recent Supreme Court decisions. We can only use the total population. There was some discussion at the last meeting about total population can be balanced, but then you end up with an imbalanced population of the citizen voting age population because some parts of the district might have more kids or non-citizens that aren't calculated. Again, there was a big case in Texas where they tried to rebalance all their districts based on the adult population, and the courts threw that out, said you have to use the census raw data of the total population. Districts need to be contiguous, meaning they need to be whole parts. They need to maintain communities of interest. And you had a lot of really good conversations in your prior hearings about communities of interest, talking about, this is where you have a lower income area. This is where you have more renters. This is where you have a population that's come forward and said, we need to be together. Those are the kind of things that are in this kind of more abstract term of community of interest. Following existing boundaries, like if there are city or county or other boundaries, is great. Other things like have been talked about, following a river or something like that, a geographic boundary, that's a great thing to use too, as long as the census block happens to also follow that boundary. And then keeping districts compact. This is more about like appearance a lot of times. You don't want to have districts that look like two octopuses kissing. You want to have districts that look like more boxes and squares and less weird shapes. When we look at your agency, you can see that this is kind of the map of its current existing external boundaries. In terms of total population, like I said, you're just over 5,000, 5,574 total population based on the 2020 census. And then you have in this table, the top part of the table is the total population ethnicity counts. And the bottom table is the ethnic population from the citizen voting age population data that is updated every year. And so it shows you that you have 5,500 population, but around 1,200 of those people are either kids or non-citizens. So your citizen voting age population is 4,300. And so we can go through this and look at the maps that you've done. We started with maps A, B, and C using different methods. The first one kind of thrown out was map B. That one had a long sweeping district that went from kind of top to bottom and all along the internal portion of the agency. And it was viewed as being kind of like putting together disparate communities and didn't really look like a good district. So we then were at map A, B, and C, from map A, B, and C just to map A and C. One thing to know is that when we draw these, let me just go through these real quick. When we draw these, they're also going to end up having numbering. And this was in the email that Clemens sent out. We're going to have districts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in each of these plans. And the way that it has been expressed is that we're going to have, for purposes of like a proposed numbering system, stick with a real basic construct of even numbered districts will be up in 24 and non-numbered districts will be up in 26. When you come to a final plan before you vote or in concert with your final vote, you can assign what districts come up when, but that does have to be a part of the process. Draft Plan A, you discussed, I think, at length. I just wanted to put the map up here to show it and to show that it has a deviation of the total population of 6.3%. That means that the largest district is 6.3% larger than the smallest district. When we look at Draft Plan B, this is the one that I said had that kind of sweeping district going all the way from the top to the bottom, and you guys wanted to not include that as one of your draft plans anymore. It had a deviation of 4.3. Draft Plan C with a deviation of 1.7, so I think it's the smallest deviation of these plans. Then of the D series, we end up having 2 Plan Ds. The first one was created with the staff to minimize the neighborhood splits and reflect the direction of the board after the first hearing and the presentations of A, B, and C. And then at your last hearing, you were doing some live line drawing, looking at if you could move this or that. And Liz came back to you with a modified version of Plan D to address two main kind of things in there that I can show you those changes. And that was included and sent to you and put up on the website. So draft Plan D was the one that was discussed the most at the last hearing. It had a total plan deviation of 3.1%. Draft Plan D2 changed just two things, largely in the areas of District 2, 3, and 4. And then if you look, you can see there was a change here to District 2 to bring that line out here where it's green, to bring that a little bit more east. There was a large census block here above District 4 that was taken and put into 4. What that ended up doing was creating, in both instances, we were taking from District 3. So District 3 had to go take something back from somebody else. So it took from District 5 population down here at the southwestern end. And then that meant District 5 was underpopulated. So it had to go take from someone else again. And so that meant we ended up making these adjustments to District 4 here. So the final district draft D2 has kind of this arm coming up in District 5 into District 4, but that was done in order to balance the population. This is what in redistricting terms we generally call a rotation of population. Sometimes you'll have two districts and they can just swap population between the two. 30 people go into this district, and so it goes and gets another 30 people from that district, just back and forth. In other cases, you end up taking 2, 3, or 5, or 20 districts, and you end up rotating population. So one district takes from another, it's short, it takes from the other, it's short, it takes from the other, it's short, and it takes from the original. And so that is what we ended up having here, was essentially a rotation of population in order to balance that. And you can see that in the overlay here. The total plan deviation is exactly 5%. So that is a good plan deviation. It's well within the requirements of any final redistricting plan. So what's next is we could talk about a preferred plan. We could discuss possible changes, provide any direction for creation of a new map. And a new map can be considered at the next hearing as long as it's posted within 7 days of the next hearing. And then number and sequencing can be addressed. Again, we still only have to put up a proposed numbering sequencing for this map, but that sequencing decision can actually be made at the final hearing. The map itself, the physical map, has to be done 7 days in advance. And then I just wanted to kind of review again some ground rules before we go into the rest of the discussion here. This has the discussion of sequencing, I'm sorry. The upcoming hearings, we have August 17th as final map adoption. The ground rules I wanted to discuss were that, yes, drawing maps for an agency of 5,500 people and drawing it in districts that are roughly 1,100 population with census blocks that can sometimes have 70, 80, or 235 people in it, that becomes really challenging. You can imagine one census block having almost 20% of a district. That means that census block, moving it becomes really problematic and causes a lot of disruption. So it's not as easy as drawing a congressional district or something like that. So with that in mind, the blocks and the kind of handcuffs we have based on the way the census does those blocks is going to be a constraint that's going to make this kind of not as pleasant. We are going to have lines that go right down the middle of streets, and that's the census data. And there are hundreds of thousands of voters in the state who live on either sides of the street from where their neighbor across the street is in one assembly district and they're in another assembly district. We also have that, I live in Sacramento, and there are parts of Sacramento where you drive in and out, in and out. You don't know whether you're in city or county except for the color of the recycle bins. There are a lot of people who live across the street, and the other side of the street is a city. The other side of the street is a different congressional district or different water district. So that's just going to happen no matter what. And then as we go through this, if you do want me to go in and start drawing some maps, we can play with that. And we're going to be kind of bound to what the census data gives us, and they sometimes create some really weird lines, so I have to apologize for them. If you guys have any questions or want to have me go through a different part of this presentation, I'm happy to. Or I can just address any questions you might have about any of the maps.
Okay, let me start with Sid.
Thank you. One of the reasons that it was mentioned before I noticed on 8th Street near Audubon, they carved out 5 houses. So I suggested going behind all the houses on Audubon, because the street behind it, there is no street right behind it's a pasture. But I think she left it that way somehow. And my suggestion is to go, this is totally redoing your whole map, but I was looking and I think if you went straight down 6th Street from the ocean until it becomes Hart Street, and that's one area, and cut off at Audubon. And because a person came to our meeting last time and said they needed Moss Beach Heights to be all one district. So if you took that little part after 8th Street where the pasture starts and Audubon there, and you go to the part where the Montara Creek is, you could start going down and pick up most of Moss Beach Heights that way and stop at Sunshine Valley Road. And then the Sunshine Valley Road up to
Let's slow down. Let's make sure he's tracking.
I don't know if he is.
Well, I'll show you where
they're again. So then if it went all the way up to Elm, that could be like, you could call it East Montara or something.
Could you show the streets, please? I can't see them.
So
Yeah.
here you can see this
map.
is
Just make
6th
the
Street.
street visible. I can't see anything.
It's really hard to see.
I can't see anything.
Paul, is there a way to take the color and make it more transparent so we can see the streets?
This is fixed, but you can. These colors on this.
You can see it.
Here, Sid, would you like to use this? Maybe you
No,
can see.
I can see. He said he couldn't see.
I've been
close.
asking for maps with visible street names for 2 months now. I thought you had them. I thought you could make them.
They're just so light on your map. It's the 8th and
They're utterly.
you can hardly see them.
Okay.
The colors are almost opaque.
If you're looking at this red shape here, I can see that this is 6th Street, this is 7th Street, this is 8th Street, this is Audubon, right?
Okay.
So
You can see that.
You can see it,
You
but
can.
it doesn't look like this. This one's a lot more clear because it doesn't have the bright pinks and stuff over it.
Let's just be really clear. Let's just be really clear. The board members find the readability of these maps as presented problematic. And we've been saying that for a while. And now you're hearing us like really camp on that point, because here we're down to the wire and we're still squinting. And that's not really conducive to the kind of discussion that we're trying to have.
Thank you.
Is it possible to print some of these that are on screen in such a format that you can at least see the streets? You don't need to be able, I don't need to be able to read the street names.
Okay, so this presentation is useful. Thank you.
Yes.
So this is a different program. This is Maptitude, and I can try to increase the font size of the street name on this. So that's maybe to make it even bigger.
Oh, 3 times bigger, please.
Okay. 6th Street, 7th Street, 8th Street, Audubon. So I understand that the director made some questions about, from the ocean to 6th Street and then Audubon. Is there a specific change to one of the potential maps that's already drawn that we can look at to see if that is creating like a catastrophic change or if it ends up being a small change?
Sid, what's the gist of your comments here?
Okay, the gist of my comment is you've got these little squares cut out there, that one where your red line goes, where if you could just go straight across Montara on Sixth Street and have one district be south of Sixth and one be north of Sixth. And
Let me
then
draw that for a
Sixth Street ends at Date Street and becomes Hart, and that could be a new person's district because Sunshine Valley cuts in right there.
Okay, so I'm going to create a plan that's just going to be for us, kind of for the conversation here. I'm
All
just
right.
going to plan D2.
Sounds good.
Okay. And then we're just going to call this D2. Sorry. Let's see.
Three.
D3.
They'll do D2B. We might not ever end up using this depending on what happens when I start making changes. It might be, we might end up having to do a rotation that ends up getting us back to something more similar, shockingly, to B once we do this.
Well, and we're also at a disadvantage of giving you suggestions because we don't have any of the census numbers for each specific street.
Well, remember, census numbers aren't for streets, they're for the blocks.
I know.
I think the districtor tool that you guys had set up would have allowed you to draw these yourselves if you wanted to. But since we're here and it wasn't drawn kind of at home, we'll just do it here on the computer.
Sure, yeah.
So what you're talking about, and I'm going to take a stab real quick at doing this, because the only district to put the north of 6th Street into would be District 1, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm
Yeah.
going to do that real quick, and we're going to look and see what that does. I'm going to do this, and I'm not going to accept the changes. I'm going to just do this, and then this is what that would look like. Let me do this real quick. I have to make the font size of the street name large again. Sorry.
I don't even see it.
I know it's.
Are you sure that's 6?
It looks like it's like same street name.
We're going down one more street.
Yeah.
There's 6th Street.
Yeah.
You didn't have it right anyway.
Mhm.
So,
Like that.
Right.
There we go. Yes.
and I think Seacliff Court is actually a street, so 6th Street kind of turns into Seacliff Court. You don't have to have that other red block the way you have it, but I don't care.
This red block here, you mean?
Yeah,
Have to have it because that's a census block shape.
all right, whatever.
Okay.
Just so you know, what this would do is it would make district number 1 43% overpopulated.
Well, sorry, but can you not go down to like, oh, well,
This is essentially right here, almost half of a district population wise. So to take it and put it into 1 would mean district 2 would be underpopulated by about 40%. And
well, okay, but I was thinking of having District 2 go through that pasture, have Audubon Street be the line that goes down to Moss Beach Heights.
okay, so we're going to do this and we're going to accept it. And what we're going to do is we're going to kind of play this out, okay? And
Wait, we left off some pink.
if other directors want to try a different thing, let's wait until we play this until it's at end.
All right,
We'll figure
all
out
right,
if that's okay.
it's fine.
So we're now accepting this change, and we now have district 1 that's way overpopulated. And you're now saying you want to do something to District 2.
Okay, now I understood. I that pink part, you confused me. So, then up, do you see where, sorry,
You're fine.
Elm or Date Street goes up through whatever, maybe it's District 1, I don't know what you're calling it. From where Audubon goes to, I mean, not Audubon, wish I could point, but you're not sitting in the room. You see the street that's where Portola Avenue is? And you have your little block covering it right now.
Yeah, so you want to put
See that? Yeah, thank you.
district number 2.
Wait, do you see where Date Street is and it goes off of 6th or Art? Keep
So you
going.
to
Yeah.
district number 2 since it's underpopulated, right?
I don't know whether it's, honestly, I can't tell you. I'm saying if you move that line.
Okay, so just pause for,
Are you talking about the segment from LeConte? You want to move that over to Audubon?
I was talking about the part where you see Portola and
Could you
Mas.
go touch it on the screen, then we'll all see what you're talking about.
Oh, you guys, okay.
Yeah.
I'm thinking this district could start here at Hart and Audubon
Right, so
and
you,
go along the Montara Creek, and then that would take over all of Moss Beach Heights, and this one would be a different.
so you would
district.
take the eastern boundary, both the LeConte segment and the Audubon segment, and move it over to Sunshine Valley?
I don't know about LeConte, he's got that white
Look,
thing in the
look,
middle
look.
of it.
Yeah,
Hang on,
right.
Hang on.
Okay, so,
LeConte is right here. This segment
that's LeConte,
that
sorry.
where you started pointing, and I'm like, you're talking about pushing the LeConte boundary over to Sunshine Valley
well,
and the
see
Audubon.
here, Audubon,
Oh, you want to push it to Audubon?
And
That
then
was
Hart and
that was
Dave,
actually my exact question.
okay, I
Do you
could.
want to push the LeConte segment over to Audubon? And you're
Yes,
saying
and
yes?
I also thought we might as well go behind the houses on this side of Eighth, because there's only this big pasture behind it.
okay, just so that I, on the other end of this conversation can understand, don't say this district or that
Mhm.
district.
I know, I'm not saying any district.
They're talking to each other at the moment, folks.
Paul, could you take the short 2 block segment on LeConte and move that over to Audubon?
To District 2.
No,
Is there no way to, the portion that you have highlighted,
this is what I had in mind.
let me finish my statement.
That's fine, yeah.
Yeah, you just want this one and the other piece like it on 6, but your map tool is pulling you all the way around the Sunshine Valley.
It's okay, because you could probably pull in all of Moss Beach Heights and make it this, the district that Carl May wanted last time. He said he wanted all of Moss Beach Heights to be together. So this would have started here. This one could be. There was
So
another
you would
thing
pull,
over
you
on
would pull this
Street.
boundary down.
Yeah, so here's the Moss Beach down.
Yeah.
So this one could be one district
Yeah.
along this Sunshine Valley Road or whatever creek that is, I forget.
You'd be putting all of this stuff in with Moss Beach Heights.
Yes,
So all of the western side of Sunshine Valley, you would put in under Moss Beach Heights.
yes, and Audubon, the western side of Audubon. Now still, I don't know what this thing is, but.
We should not be doing.
Why is western side next door?
Right, but that's a different district. It's what I'm trying to say.
I think the investment.
You keep putting the brains over what we're talking
No,
about.
no, but when we're talking about this stuff,
Right.
now you think throw all the pasture into it.
Not necessarily, no, but my plan was,
Do you have a map where you
Yeah, I
test this out?
I tried to, okay, here. These are the houses that go along 8th Street. And his one goes down the middle of 8th Street, but I thought, well, like, let Audubon go there, and then this district up here can take all of that. The pasture, I don't know, that could be this district too, because it's pasture. And then
Well, except people live in.
there's a few
The
people on
pasture.
A far away. There's a mostly
Well,
horses.
no,
No, there are houses there.
there
There
are houses.
There's like 10 homes.
You're diminishing the people who live there.
I'm not.
There's like
You are.
like 10 homes there.
Okay, so hold on. I'm trying to find the map I had it on. It's really hard to
If you
do.
have a sketch, let's look at the sketch, but trying to.
I don't really have the
This is-
sketch
this is just
because,
driving me nuts. I don't know, I can't follow what's going
Well-
on, and
these streets, 16th, 15th, all of that should be in the district up there. You can have all of this
Wow.
pasture too.
why, because you think so, why do you think so?
Because I think it goes along the creek, which I thought would be a lot better since it's a boundary.
Okay, so
Of
you're thinking that
At
everything,
the last meeting, at last several meetings, you have criticized me for when I was chairing Sam for letting people interrupt, and yet you keep
Sorry.
interrupting when we're trying to.
You're
make
right,
a
that's
point.
wrong. I shouldn't.
okay, so I was speaking and I got interrupted, so let me just try to take the meeting back to the chair. What I think I heard you articulating, Sid, was that it seemed to make sense to use Montara Creek as a natural boundary and have things to the north of that in a district
Right.
and things to the other side of the creek in one or more other districts.
also because Sunshine Valley Road, there's another little creek there, and that could be a
So
separate district.
you're seeing creeks and Sunshine Valley Road as boundaries that should be more natural to the people who live here, right?
And natural to water flow.
And also because of the person who came from the public, the only person that came and wanted to preserve Moss Beach Heights as a community, which I don't think any of these maps had done up until then.
So
That
let's
was
see.
Mr. May, Carl May.
So Moss Beach Heights, if we're looking at D and D2, Moss Beach Heights is chopped between 3 and 4, right?
I think so.
Um,
They gave us so many, I couldn't.
yeah, that
Does this help at all, Paul?
okay.
I mean,
So let's go to Catherine now.
sure.
I don't see that Moss Beach, well, Moss Beach is chopped into 3 districts. My concern is neighborhoods generally have
Yes, I mean, gives you.
common interests. And what I'm hearing is, well, what I'm not seeing is common interest being to have a spokesperson being addressed. And Moss Beach Heights has some particular issues right now, and yet half of Moss Beach, or a significant portion, maybe a quarter of Moss Beach, is put in with the south, with the midsection of Montara. And the issues of interest are what I think we should be looking at, not creeks, not pastures.
Well,
Yeah, let me emphasize this point. Where you have it marked pasture, there are 10 homes.
well,
I don't know the exact number, but there are a bunch of homes.
on a far away, there are.
No, there are more than that.
There
There
are
are
A far away.
A far
is the
away
street.
and Audubon. There are homes down
Right,
each of those
that's
roads,
true.
and it's not just pasture. It happens to have pasture. But
A-
a lot of places have pasture, including out along past Sunshine Valley Road, and
I agree.
it's not the distinguishing mark here.
No, I
It-
just meant because the houses on 8th Street, their backyard faces a pasture. There's no houses right
So-
behind them. That's what I meant as far as the
I see.
pasture.
Okay, so you're
Sorry
just
about
looking,
that.
you're just looking at, if I live on 8th Street, my interests are the same, no matter which side of the street I'm on.
You're
Is that the
across the
point you're
street
making?
neighbor, yes, it is.
Okay.
My concern, Scott, and everyone, is that I see communities of interest.
Yeah.
Being divided such that if we're going to go to this, I think there needs to be the whole reason for this is about having communities have a voice.
Right,
That's the basic thing, and it's been based on racism. Well, here we have different kinds of interests. I don't think they are any less important than race. And as such, I see, I'm not comfortable with any of what I'm seeing here. And I realize we have to do this by population-based census tracts. But I'd love to be able to see, and I realize it's late, and we have the 17th is a hard and fast deadline, just for the folks who are watching and wish we could work on this. I just don't see creeks and pastures as being as important as zoning issues. Now, most of our zoning in this district, we have a very few multi-use units. We have a very little commercial. We have very little multi-residence. Most of it is R1, S17. And then we have, I would say the next biggest population is in the rural areas. which have somewhat different interests. And so I see the District 3 is just a hodgepodge of different interests. And I am concerned about that. So, pastures or creeks do not divide interests. The creeks go through the, R1S17, the county just did these things in blocks. So I'd like to start talking more about what neighborhoods have in common. And I think taking from the middle of from Sunshine Valley Road along Etheldor and dividing that off is not doing a good service for Moss Beach.
Could you elaborate on that just a wee bit? I just want to make sure
Okay.
because that was a long wind up, but then you made a recommendation. So I
would like to see somehow community interests.
No, but the specific Etheldor Sunshine Valley.
Okay. Just if you go along Etheldor, you
Yeah.
can see that it is Highway 1 to Etheldor from Vermont is all in with the rural areas. And it's not going to have a
So the urban, what we would call kind of urban downtown Moss Beach
yeah.
is not the same thing as well, no, I mean,
That's what the county called it.
oh, okay. Well, look, I mean,
That's why I'm snickering.
I'm just gonna use the term
Yeah.
because we've got the same thing around, in Montara, urban downtown Montara is along Main Street. Right? Mostly.
That's the commercial.
But it's not just the commercial thing, it's the urban downtown. So if you live on Main Street or near Main Street in Montara, from like the rise of the hill, so like about maybe 3rd, definitely by 4th, you're starting to get close to the downtown area, right? But so everybody has this notion of this kind of centroid where the downtownish urban area is, and it's loaded with houses mostly because both Montara and Moss Beach are mostly homes. So, Catherine, to your point, the stuff in and around Etheldor is all really a community that can clearly identify, look, we all live close to the market. We all live close to the wine bar. We all live close to what used to be Fly on the Wall or the park, right? Whereas someone living up on Sunshine Valley Road is like, I don't know, aren't they saying we live on Sunshine Valley Road? Like, and they have to explain to people all the time whether they do or don't live in Moss Beach. But if you live close to the park, you don't have to ever explain that. You obviously live in Moss Beach. So I think you're trying to get to the community, the notion of where people think they live. Is that kind of the thing?
That's part of what I'm trying to get to. But the other issue that I have is, well, I can go back and forth on any of this. And I suppose the job of the district will be, after all of this, trying to find a way to get the representatives who are sitting in these seats to understand it's all about sewer and water and not where the creek is.
Okay. Bill's next, and let's go to Sid. Look at Peter, see if you have anything.
And need to apologize in advance for taking a little bit longer than I usually do, or maybe than anyone else has this meeting. But what I'm hoping that I'm learning from my brilliant wife is how to keep my powder dry by only making long speeches at exactly the right moment. And this is exactly the right moment where we are watching a cluster F something of multiple different problems and handcuffs, to use Paul's phrase, being imposed on us from multiple directions at once. I'm going to list about 6 of them. And the very best we could ever hope to do is try to find the stupid key to unlock the handcuffs. There are a handful of things we can do to find that key. But unfortunately, we aren't doing anything, and most of the things we're doing are making it worse. That's why I'm jumping in because my platform here is as a technical solution specialist who understands information flow, and we are now tangled in all kinds of information flow. So, first of all, we're here because of the bad state law, which says that all special districts should have district representation, however small. That is enumerative, like 2 + 2 = 17. There is zero reason for not doing that and every reason to know it can't work in small districts reliably. So that's imposed on all of us. Then we have census tracts, which were invented God knows how many decades ago, and the outlines of those are determining what kind of data we even get to look at. Then we have the data from the actual census, which also is, 10 or so years out of date, and also is categorized according to standardized statewide pre-existing things like age, ethnic group, poverty, renter status, none of which we seem to care about very much. Then there are rules about fractional deviation, which ought to have the square root of n in them somewhere if they're technically competent, but seem to be just traditions made up by innumerate justices over the decades. Then we have districts which are shaped according to things which are convenient to do on mapping programs, like putting pasture-like things which look like pasture with other things, creating quote-unquote rural districts which share neither zoning requirements nor sewage flow nor water issues, which are the things we do care about. Natural boundaries, like Sid brought up, are one of the few things which Supreme Courts have agreed on, like rivers, and which actually make sense and which people gather around. Rivers and roads are as close to good lines to use as you could ever hope for, but we're looking at they don't line up with census tracts, or they're not on the mapping software or something. So the problem is, for decades from the law onward, we have all been told to make the best possible plan for the future by using the available stuff which was gathered decades ago according to principles which are no longer valid. Those are the handcuffs. Now, so just to deal with the content before we even talk about how to resolve it, our issues here are, where do sewers overflow? That's where we're spending millions of dollars to keep sewage off the streets. That's what we care about. That is a question of geography and hydrology. I see no reason why we can't have the data. We have hydrologists. We have people who can show us where the issue areas are. We should be seeing them. We've got issues of well water versus mains water. Where are the wells in these districts? Where aren't they? Which ones should or couldn't be converted? Then, where do the district officers live? In which districts? I've been asking this for months because one of our biggest expenses, including this very meeting, is trying to figure out how we can have the districts well represented without drawing boundaries which make it harder. That matters. Nobody's done anything about that either. Then there's the issue, then Catherine's issue, zoning things. I hadn't even thought about that. And the county zoning lines might be like census tracts, dumb and artificial, but we need to see where they are and know what the trade-offs are, which comes to my final point. The only possible way, and this is the reason I'm taking this long speech now, is to watch you guys arguing and pointing at a screen while the guy who drew the map has no idea what you're pointing on. This is the best illustration of why we should never have meetings on Zoom. I don't care whether we vote for this or not, I personally want our final meeting to have a very large format paper map, immediately visible, bright, clear type fonts, everything like blueprint level, and we are the builders who are signing off on the final blueprint in person, touching things and scribbling on it. That's how we will make a good decision. So that is a point which I claim is scientifically grounded. I am looking forward to anyone who argues with me about the truth of that statement. Practicality and cost is another matter. I stand by truth. I'm good at that. So upcoming, I think we should have paper map, good fonts, in person, showing sewage, water issues, and something about director residences. Thanks.
So before, when I was pointing to the map he had on the screen, I thought I had my hand up next, sorry.
You did, and I didn't call on you yet.
Okay.
I do want to respond on the issue of the current directors and where they live. This is, in my view, and I believe the law agrees with me, who currently represents is immaterial to the fairness of the district map.
I've said this a million times. Let's have this discussion right now.
Well, I believe it's immaterial. That the interests of the individuals who are serving on this board are not the interests that are the topic of discussion.
That wasn't what I said.
Well, I think it's material in terms of I would like to maintain arm's length on whether or not my decisions are influenced at all by how that might impact my ability to stand for a district.
I understand.
I would like to keep it at arm's length so that the potential perception of conflict of interest, which is the guide star of conflict of interest considerations itself. For me, I'd rather not know, and I'd rather talk only about how well these districts represent for our community, separate and apart from how we individually might play into that, because I know in 50 years, I will not be on this board. And some point between now and 50 years, I will not be on this board. And someone else will sit here and they will live somewhere else probably.
Those are all true things.
So
but they
this
aren't what I-
is, excuse me.
Okay.
It's the same that when we look at permitting for a house, we look at not who's going to live in it first, but what that house is capable of housing, and what the implications for the district would be over a very long period of time. So for me, this is a necessary arm's length kind of matter, and I don't want to see a map that shows where we live.
I did not, first of all, I explicitly at the last issue did not say show a map which shows where we live. I said show a map which enumerates which members live in which districts, which means you can't reverse it. You can't find your house. All you know is number 5. So that is a crucial representation, because I was not in fact asking to do the thing which violates privacy. That's kind of point 1.
No, my point is not about privacy at all.
But my point was not that we show a map which shows where we live. And since people keep repeating this thing, which I explicitly said I wouldn't mean, I'm going to keep yelling about it. So a map I am proposing, and then I will justify it. But first, I am proposing that we get identified who lives in which districts. Here is why. You seem to think it is only out of self-interest. I'm glad you said because it's you, because to imagine that I thought it was self-interest would be to imagine I'm thinking something I'm not thinking, and that would be kind of an insult. So the version that I have talked about, and I'm
stop. No, stop. That requires a direct response. This imputation of I could have been insulting you is immaterial, because I very specifically spoke to my interest. And I want to be very clear that I have heard you a number of times say you want this thing, and you said we've never acted on it. Action from this board requires direction from this board, and I never weighed in support of your desire. And that goes more to explain why the board hasn't done anything, because we have not stepped up and all agreed, yes, let's do that. That failure to garner support for a thing you would like does not mean that the board has failed it does not mean that the board has failed in being complete in its conduct. I'm now explaining, and I don't have to, but I'm doing it anyway. I haven't stepped up to advocate for that because I have a preference to maintain arm's length from the knowledge.
That is also what
and what I was saying had nothing to do with seeing a map with our homes on it and privacy issues. That's not the issue at all. It was, I don't care to know about the implications for myself or my colleagues. That's my choice. And that's why I never signed up to the concern. Now, I interrupted you, but your imputation of a potential slight. Sorry.
Okay, yes, we're reacting the same way. It would be easier with 2 than with 3, Catherine. We're both reacting the same way. You reacted to the imputation of a slight, but so do I. Nothing I have ever said says I was after self-interest in this. I don't think self-interest should be brought in unless somebody introduces it. Now, I understand that there are historically lots of reasons for who lives where to not be part of the map. I mean, certainly not part of the map making process. But once wet maps are made, our particular district has exactly one issue, which has taken more time and money than practically everything else. And that's how to get one more board member on. It is hard to get board members even at a full district-wide election, and now a special district will probably be harder. So the reason I am introducing this issue is, at least for the first 4-year election cycle, it would be helpful to know how we can have a smooth transition toward the world you imagine when both of us are gone. But I want us to have a smooth transition on this one issue, which has taken so much of our time. And knowing what the consequences will be for the election seems to be an important piece of data for the public in doing that. That is what I was advocating. And I was advocating we do it in person so that we can all really know what's up.
Okay.
If I can speak briefly to this issue,
I still want to have my hand raised too.
Hang on, Paul.
discussion was that there will be, prior to the adoption of a final map, a numbering sequence. That proposed numbering sequence right now is just taking odd and even arbitrarily. But that numbering sequence can look at where the residents, where the incumbents actually live in order to align the election dates to the residents of that district. And at that final meeting, we can have for you which members live in which districts. The challenge is kind of a chicken and the egg question about if you start revealing which incumbents live in which districts, then somebody says, well, can I move this line to somewhere else? And they presume that it's not changing the incumbents, and it is. But I want to be clear, that question of how are we going to deal with these districts moving forward and understanding which districts would be vacant is going to be a part of that discussion at the final meeting. It just isn't a part of the creation process.
You interrupted me, remember? So Conrad, him, I started talking because I had my hand up.
I just wanted to say,
Let's take the really brief comment and we'll
Fine.
continue so you can go on.
if Scott's going to insult you,
Mhm.
it won't be a supposition.
Okay, well, I guess I haven't experienced that.
Okay, let's go to Sid.
Okay, I still hold that we should draw the line down Sixth Street and make it more geographic. I did make a little scribble here. Okay, right now, I'm the only Moss Beach director, but there's no way I could possibly take on all of Moss
So
Beach.
is this your proposed alternative map?
Kind of messy,
No, is this your proposed alternative map?
not exactly, because I screwed up this line. This line was, I
Okay,
think,
so-
the creek.
So,
This would be the area of the farms in the back country Montara. This would be the part where that I
No,
called it
you-
the pasture, but I put the line behind the houses on 8th Street. And this is all of Moss Beach Heights and part of that side of Moss Beach. This is the creek. I think it's called San Vicente Creek, yeah. And I think that's a natural boundary between this part of Moss Beach and that part of West Moss Beach. And this director, whoever it would be, would have the view to Mar up by the hospital.
Yep,
Those- So, and this is Sunshine Valley Road, but this was just my proposal.
okay,
Everybody
hang
jumped
on.
in, so I never finished.
Okay, so Peter, you're saying something I don't want to miss,
Right.
and I don't think it should be a side
Conversation.
conversation. Wow. Okay, so I want to summarize what Sid is proposing, and then I want to go to you so you can express your thought, because I think it's cogent.
And Scott, just
Even
one,
if I didn't, it's your thought, and I want to make sure you get a chance. to
one
put it
more
out.
thing, is on this map, I have no idea how the population will fit.
Right,
Okay,
so, but we have something that she sketched out. In terms of logical organization of boundaries, I think I don't have any problem with it. I have no idea how viable it is
Right.
with the numbers. It is a little, you've got that really weird popsicle stick up here.
and I meant to make it go down to Hart Street and those couple streets that like Cedar that, and maybe is it Birch, that are stubs, right where the Montara Creek goes. But of course, nobody wants to talk about the creek.
Well,
Here,
no, hang on.
I'll show you. I put it here.
This is a meeting. We're not supposed to be wandering around.
Well,
Sorry.
it's a workshop.
If the wetlands
We're-
are maps, you have to actually look.
We're
at
trying
that
to,
map.
I'll tell you
I
that
can't see what's
Well,
going
come
on.
on.
I could pass it on.
I'm trying to get clarity on it so we can distribute something that
Yes.
is sufficiently clear.
Really hard to
I'm
do,
at the
but
point where you should
This
just
is
send
the
it to
date.
me.
You-
because
They
I'm
don't have it,
really-
they're making it.
yeah,
Hang on. You said you wanted to alter something here. Take a highlighter and alter it.
no, this is the blow up of it. See these streets that are only short streets? So 6th Street goes up to where Hart starts. This one, Portola and all these are really more part of this part of Montara.
Yeah.
And this little part could be this new section.
Well, that's what
Right.
you've got here.
No, because I made a mistake and didn't make this part here go here.
You made a mistake.
Well, I'm saying this person, whoever gets this, should probably have the pasture, because you're right, 8 far away has houses.
So you're saying this is a district?
I'm saying it could be
It's too
from
small.
6th Street. Well, my other thought was it could go along here, but I don't know the population. That's the
We need
thing.
to do this in a way, and trust me, I've done thousands of hours of live line drawing like this.
Live one.
Want to explore a possibility, this is where we can do it in the mapping software. And if when we draw the lines, you realize that it creates a district that's 50% underpopulated, then you realize, well, that wasn't an opportunity to create a legal map. So what I would recommend is we have on the screen part of what you'd been discussing before we kind of went around the table with other people's comments. If you want to use this opportunity for me to draw the lines that you're thinking of, then we can see how unbalanced they are or how balanced they are. Does that make sense?
Right.
Okay.
So hang on, Sid. Wait.
I got cut off when I was starting this
Well-
map, but you can go ahead. You tell
Okay.
me what I just said.
Paul, what I've been doing with Sid has been trying to understand what she's proposing.
Okay.
See if we can put that in terms that we could then turn to you and have you live draw. Before we do that, I want Peter to have his say. Peter?
Our hands are tied, as Bill said, our hands are tied, and by what? By the mathematical guidelines that we have been given to organize legal districts. And these mathematical guidelines can probably not be managed on a map here, sitting together around the table. It is more likely that they can only be done like Paul is showing us here, by using the computer program to find out how many people fall in each district and how impossible is it for us to redraw the lines. And we all of a sudden run out of possibilities to make the populations abide by the mathematical formulas that the law prescribes us to follow. Mm-hmm. So by all means, I think we're on the right road when Sid finally draws up the map that shows where exactly she wants this map to be, so that we on the computer program can see how this changes the other districts. And if these other districts are now known to have not enough people in there, if we can make up for it somehow. And that is purely a mathematical kind of thing where you, with your computer program, can draw these lines that you're all looking for.
Beautiful.
So can I go on then?
No, what you should go on for is to finally decide which line you want where. That's the main thing.
Right.
And then have Paul figure out how we are short and if we can make up for it somehow. But to sit here in this meeting and to spend half an hour or 45 minutes on going back and forth as to where the line should be, that's not what we're here for.
So are you ready for me to continue, Paul Mitchell?
Yeah.
I was suggesting we take a line and either go up Date or Elm North.
Okay, so let's start with looking at the screen that I've got here.
Yeah.
So, and I want to use terms of this district to that district. So starting with, I heard you say that you wanted this area and the idea is to move this to District 2, correct?
No. Oh, wait, which is the one you're talking about, the white one or the orange one?
To move this red area to the white one.
No.
Okay.
The red area, I wanted to have part of District 4. First of all, I'm thinking of Highway 1 as the boundary line for the Moss Beach part, which you don't really show in your map right now. Yeah, that's it. You can't see me if I stand up and point, right?
No.
I don't want pointing, I just want words. So,
Sid,
right.
I'm confused when you say Highway 1 is the boundary line.
Because I'm not sure, since I don't have any numbers, he's the only one that's the master of the numbers. If what the white part that's number 2 could come down and take over the west side of Highway 1 down in Moss Beach till the numbers are right. But I remember there was only one member of the public that came up and spoke, and they wanted Moss Beach Heights, which is the area that has the 4 on it right now, to be all one section. And if you started up there where Portola and Cedar and Birch and Audubon are, you could continue it down. And then the people who are,
Wait.
Let's go one.
Make sure he's tracking and you're jumping.
So you want to, we know that what you've done so far has underpopulated District 2, which in this map is white here.
right,
It's underpopulated it by roughly 40%. So the words you just said were to bring into that district population from the west side of District 4
yes,
in order to balance it out. So let's look at that.
thank you. Yeah,
So we're going to do this. We're going to bring in the pending changes.
Well, then you're bringing in.
Interesting.
So if we were to do that in
sorry, you took Carlos Street instead of Highway 1, so you gotta scoot over a little to the west. See where it says,
you want that?
that's it, that's the opposite side of Highway 1.
So this is only moving 124 people. So District 2 is still underpopulated by 25% roughly.
And that's with 6th Street going all the way through, right? To Seacliff Court. Oh, also, I didn't anticipate you were gonna take those last 2 blocks of the green. 7th and 5th and 6th could be part of District 1. And have Audubon be the boundary line. I don't know why that little notch is there.
So let's do this part first.
Okay,
I can
Sorry.
take this coastal side that follows PCH all the way down. It will now mean that District 2 goes all the way down the coast here to there. And I can put that in District 2 and show you what that looks like. And then I could put the other stuff, 6th Street, Audubon, into District 1 if you want to. The
No.
problem is District 1 is already.
or put that one that looks like starts, I'm sorry. See where it's District 3 is following, it cuts the creek in half, but where the pasture is of District 2, you had it before, it was a bright orange.
You want to turn the green into a white.
Yeah,
No, you
white.
want to turn the
That's
green
it.
into a blue.
Right there.
Turn
No.
the green
That's,
into a
no,
blue.
white,
White? Oh.
yeah, but take those 2 streets out.
Program, the district that is the getting district, the district that's going hungry hippo and grabbing population, it is the white one. No matter what we do, whenever we set that as establish that as the one that's getting population, it'll change to white.
Okay.
So this district, what you said was, did you say
That should be white.
or to put this stuff into District 4?
No, 2. I'm sorry. Why does that still have a little hook on it? That's what I don't understand.
The bottom of 4?
No, let's see, the
6.
top of,
Which district? There's a
the
number.
corner that, right now that's green and called number 3, you have that little square notch in the top.
That.
Can you make that blue?
Yes,
Sorry.
what I was saying before. Okay, so district number 2, you want to add, that was what I had up originally when we were playing with this.
Yeah, I got confused. I don't know how that got there.
Stuff that's red going
Oh,
district.
Okay,
Jesus.
so Paul, if you look at the little green square that was hanging out at the top, is there a reason you have to pull in that whole Florida shaped piece down below it?
The shape of the census block.
Yeah.
See like that to that, that's one census block.
Okay, so that's not separable. We have to take it.
Well, is that a requirement of the law or a requirement of the software?
Law.
They
Okay.
require we only use census blocks.
Okay,
Yes.
so we're stuck with that. So
I
it's
see.
in or out.
Well, also you could take more of, I guess it's 5.
I would leave out Florida and just take the little bit that we can and have a weird little notch up there. It's just a 1 square block notch.
Yeah, it's 2
So
blocks.
Paul,
long.
yeah, if you take out that wraparound Florida piece,
Take the, so
if
we're,
your cursor was just over it, so no, that one,
Just make that line go straight instead of like a notch.
you can't
I see.
because
so we can do this to put this into District 2. It's taking,
now you've got a whole bunch of Sunshine Valley
No.
in District 2, and that doesn't make
That
sense.
is. See, if you went by where the Montara Creek goes, it perfectly shows the street, but. I think it's, there's a number there, 13 and 196, I'm not even sure. But the one that says 52, I don't know why you have to have it there.
So let me
Anyway,
let me just show you something that is potentially means that this whole exercise
it's
will
ridiculous.
be fruitless. And let's look, this is the reason why. Let's say we get District 2 and we say, okay, nobody really likes it, but we're going to compromise. We're going to make District 2 close to balanced. Now it's only 6% off. So we can maybe get close to being balanced with something like this. Look at the huge problem we still have. District 1 is almost half overpopulated. So District 3 would have to come up here and take a ton of District 1.
Well, I hadn't finished telling you that I thought that you could make the line of between blue, white, and pink go up Date Street or Elm as a new boundary. So you gotta scoot down, yeah.
Yeah.
See Date Street?
Yeah.
That one, or the next street over after George's Elm. And if you went straight up to the top, it goes almost to the top of our district. It's another straight line, not a Florida.
So let's do that so that we can see what that looks like.
Why is that jagging left so hard?
Because it's a census block.
Yeah. See,
See the census block?
like to any of us, it doesn't make sense because we don't know what
Visible
those,
jigsaw pieces.
yeah, those lines we don't see on a regular map.
Yeah, well, whatever that leftmost thing is, that doesn't make any sense.
But then it could.
What I want to now, before we get too far ahead of this,
That's not even populated.
That's right.
Oh, no, that's
I
okay.
think he's working on it. Oh, goodness.
No, we're not working on populating them.
No, I'm saying he's working on drawing it.
I'm just going to show this for a point of like the discussion. This whole thing just moved 73 people.
Right.
It's doing nothing to address the population imbalance.
Well, something. What is it now?
36.6%
Over.
over
Okay.
District
Right.
1.
Over, I see.
So
Now, is there a line which could be drawn so that the two are balanced? Maybe
Yeah.
just we haven't taken enough. Take some more.
So let's look at what that's going to end up being so that you get a sense.
I envisioned it going up towards the ranch, or what do you call it? The one called 771 Rivera.
Well, that's that's going to
And up to
certainly
the
give
Alta
simplicity
Vista
to it.
well.
Let's see the numbers.
You know, I'm not sure, but
That's balanced.
Wow. So
I mean, all of that to District 3.
okay.
But see how District 1 gets really tiny now?
because those are the more rural.
That's where the houses are.
Yeah.
I'm in one of them.
So if you took this and slid it down here, that would come up from the negative and this would go down on the positive.
Interesting.
So if you took the heavily articulated line at the bottom of District 4,
By the word Moss Beach.
by the word, yeah, right on top of the word Moss Beach, you take that boundary and you swing in and you bring the neighborhood that's just to the south of it.
Right.
Into
If you
four.
seal it
To
from 3 down to
Elkhorn.
4,
Yeah. That part?
then that takes care of some of the imbalance.
I think what you're saying is,
Yeah,
Ah,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, you could even take all that little loopy part there by Seton Hospital too,
And
and the
go
foot.
ahead, and get those last 3 little units there.
that's a little bit too much because now we're at,
Well, but yeah. but
Well,
you can-
why is that white part doesn't have to go across Highway 1 either? See where it's got a little foot hanging off of it?
Yeah, but you're gonna lose population.
well, let him balance it first.
Let's go ahead and see what happens.
Yeah,
The first thing is just see if we can get everything balanced and then they can be.
right.
Okay, so that brings 3 and 4 into compliance, right?
3 and 4 are in compliance. 2 we could fix fairly easily, I think. This is a rough draft of what a map could look like,
Okay,
roughly.
If you took 2 and brought it down south just a wee
Right.
bit on the west
that's
side.
my idea.
You can, but I'll show you what this weird census block looks like.
Oh, yeah,
That's
yeah.
stupid. Cause there's a park there anyway, you know, like I figured they could go to North Lake Street.
I was really hoping we'd get rid of that thought.
Yeah, and this is 200 people with that weird.
The paint hook,
So far,
Weird
this one,
spot.
right now as it is, the worst deviation is 6%. And so the district sizes are now, what, about 500 people, 600, something like that? Roughly. A few 1,100 people per district, square root of 1,100, that's 30 or something like that. So you expect 30% plus or minus anyway.
So technically, this is within 10%.
It is what?
It is within 10%. The
Yes.
most overpopulated is 6.1. The most underpopulated is negative 3.8 or 3.58. So the absolute value of those two things is 9.69, 9.69. So 9.69% deviation right now, this exact plan. And what it does do is it does bring in more of that Moss Beach community in here together. This District 3 is larger, but it doesn't do as much of what you were talking about before about capturing population centers at the northern and southern ends in a way that doesn't create more. It creates kind of two communities that are a little disparate. You have a district here that does pretty well encapsulate a lot of the more populated area. This is actually, in a technical sense, a very compact district because it takes, not compact as in small, but compact as in that it is taking in a lot of the more heavily populated area. This.
and you can't move it over one street to Date Street, is that my understanding, because of
This
some
is so good already.
census tract thing?
Let's see real quick. So district number 1, if you went to Date Street on this street, it would be fine.
And up, one more up, the Cedar to Date block.
Then it's crazy out. So you
Too
could
much.
one street.
It's better than what it looked like before, I thought.
So now the total plan deviation is, oh no, you can't do that. Sorry.
Why not?
Because your total plan deviation goes to over 12%.
With that one little square.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, I was just trying.
We had them at 6%. What's
Yeah.
wrong with it?
It's packed with houses.
And could I look at the part down by the Moss Beach, the division between, I guess it's 2 and 5? Can you blow that part up? I don't understand still why you have to have that pink area across Highway 1.
So the
Maybe-
reason that you have to have, this is one census block right here.
Oh, God, I see.
It goes underneath and comes back up the other side.
And then to this part inside that, is that also one census block?
It has
Yeah,
1,200. It has 212 people.
Paul, can you show the Beach, Virginia chunk? What's the block there?
Where's
Highway 1.
The purple lollipop.
so
So
this
are actually small blocks.
that is 158 people. You
Right, but that's not one big census block like the other thing is.
it's hard to get to is the problem. So let's see what happened if you put that in 5. So it ends up being 136 people cumulatively. I mean,
If we go to 2, it has to go to, oh, I see, because of the difference. I see.
you can't do it.
It's so weird.
Well, we're gonna have to live with some weirdness.
I guess we are.
Are we at the
I
point where
mean-
we could live with this weird?
That basic part that's white, that sticks up, like you say, like a little lollipop, that's the park, isn't it?
Scott,
There's
to
not
answer
even
your
any
question,
people in there.
Hang on, she's talking.
I'm not sure, but it might, maybe there are. There's Arbor Lane, I get, oh, there you go. I see, yeah, there are people there. That's kind of why I thought it might go along a creek line instead, but too late.
On either side, and then it follows this creek line underneath. So it's basically population centers above the creek.
All right,
So
All right,
to answer your question, can we live with some weirdness? We've discovered in the last 15 minutes that there's only so much we can do when the required census blocks are invisible random shapes that we don't get to know about.
Yeah, we
And
don't
even,
know.
maybe your map shows you where they are, but we have already hit the limit at which we can do anything because we're dealing with invisible pieces. So I propose we go with the 6% worst case thing. You say it's within the law. It's much prettier than any of the other maps. I would declare victory and go.
Okay, sounds good.
I'm pretty much in agreement. When do we get another shot at fixing the district boundaries if we decide we just need to? What's the soonest we could do it?
So if you were to adopt these plans, have them for the next election, and then try to adjust them again at a future date,
Yeah.
there is no law prohibiting you from doing a redistricting, but the new data wouldn't be out until 2030. For 2031 redistricting, that would take effect by the 2032 election.
Okay,
Which,
so
by then-
call it 10 years, really,
Yeah.
realistically, but we also don't want to spend the money very often. So the question now, the reason I asked is, if we lock down a decision today, we don't get to fix it for 10 years. Knowing
That's right.
that, can we live with this?
Sure.
So,
Could you blow it up one more time, so we can see Moss Beach Heights number 4? Because that in 10 years where that blank spot is near Lincoln Street and Highway 1, that could be highly populated. There is a proposed 71 unit complex in there. And she told us when I asked the last time that that wouldn't be included in that district until it's built and then in the next 2030 census. So that could be a help to that district as far as population goes. Are they already overpopulated or underpopulated? I forgot.
Does it matter?
I'm just asking.
well, if we started out with it under.
It'd be better.
It doesn't matter. State law is the only thing. State law made up this 10% number.
Right.
I could care less whether the actual district exceeds
Well,
it.
he said it costs us money to redo it. That's
But we
all.
don't have to.
Well,
State is not going to come in the middle of the time and force it.
It's just, I think
Are
he's
we-
asking a question that would be essentially, is there some
10 years.
buffering room in by leaving it a little light, if we know it's likely to fill in, will it naturally balance out? That would be a benefit.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna propose that we take the map that we currently have on the screen, we look for, Clemens, did we do this right? Did I open the public hearing?
Can I ask a question before you do?
I think you still have to.
I have not yet opened the public hearing, but as we've workshopped this, I hope I haven't missed anybody in the Zoom call who might have had a comment. Let me ask now, did I miss anybody? I'm going to open the public hearing and then everybody will have the chance to offer their testimony. But did I miss anybody in this back and forth stuff? I'm not seeing any hands, so I'm going to work from the understanding that we're okay, but we do need to get back to the getting through the process.
Can I ask him one question?
One question, and let's bring this to a
Could you
close.
go back to your map, Paul, which showed the percentages? Because I just had a question of what they meant.
Sure.
So when it says District 4 is minus 0.97, that means it's slightly underpopulated?
Yeah, basically 1% deviation.
Okay, so later, if that big project gets built, might even be overpopulated later
And
in
you can't-
2030.
Yeah, and you can't legally redistrict based on proposed future growth.
I know that. So I'm just saying if it's underpopulated now, that's kind of a good thing. Is that what you guys think?
Underpopulated.
It might grow.
I don't think it matters.
Okay.
It's underpopulated by 11 people.
Oh, that's not much.
Yes. But by less than
71
random, it's random noise. It's in the noise.
Okay. Thanks.
All right.
That's my question.
And we can produce this as the PDF version. We can work with your staff to assign a district number or election sequence. And we can take all those steps so that your next hearing, you have this map in addition to the others in order to a final proposed map and be able to actually pass something.
Okay. Well, given that, let me open the public hearing. And now let me invite any relevant testimony from members of the public. Do we have any members of the public with testimony they'd like to offer?
Hello, Ruth Stoner Muzine, and sorry, I'm not able to get my video on right at the moment. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. First of all, thank you all for your efforts. I know this is kind of, the sort of exercise that leads to hair pulling on all sides, and I appreciate everybody's time and attention. I live in what would currently be District 2, and it's the most underpopulated. And I don't particularly have an issue with what you tentatively settled on, but I wanted to pick up on the comment about the potential development on the north side of Moss Beach with the 71 units of housing. And I wonder if it would make sense to think about putting that in District 2 instead of where it currently is, because we're a little under, and that would, should the development happen, more equalize the undercount. I don't have a strong feeling one way or the other, but it's something that occurred to me and I wanted to raise it for your consideration. And thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. Paul, could you pull that up and just so we can visualize what she's talking about?
And didn't you say you can't count future development until it happens, right?
I just want to see
Yeah,
a member of the public has made
exactly.
testimony, like to understand, just get it in context.
Where would it be exactly?
Lincoln Street and Carlos, he dropped the map down a little. It's closer to 16th. I mean, move it up then, sorry.
You're looking for the
See the
space.
vacant lot there that's between 16th, Carlos Street and Highway 1 and Lincoln Street on the, I guess, east side? Yeah.
Area here?
Yes.
That section, yeah. Currently, there's 0 population in there.
Yeah, so the way, oh my lord.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
This,
Yeah.
you guys moved last time, remember?
Yeah. Yeah, and this explains exactly why the neighbors in Moss Beach Heights are so attentive to the development plan there.
Right.
So,
But at least that shows the creek.
yeah, okay.
Okay.
Well, census block.
Yeah, and just one follow-up then. How many people is that census block currently?
That census block is 1,000, wait, no, 248 people.
And what would be the percentage reduction if it came out of the district where you currently have it?
Think about 248 people is just under a quarter of a district.
Yeah.
Okay, so significantly more than the 6% under.
23.23 is the actual impact.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you very
It's
much.
helpful to see that.
Thank you, Ruth. Do we have any other testimony from members of the public? If not, can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make the motion.
Give it to Peter and the second is to Sid. Okay. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the public hearing is closed by a vote of 5-0. All right. Paul, I think we have a sketch of a map. I think that where we are now is to offer direction to you. And then you would then turn this into a map no fewer than 7 days before the follow-up meeting on the 17th. And distribute that through Clemens, I guess. Do we have clear enough direction, do we think? Are we agreed that the current sketch that we just worked up is what we'd like Paul to turn into a proper
Close
map?
enough, yeah.
Great. Yeah, we'll be happy to do that and we'll communicate with staff and that's fine. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. This is messy, but unfortunately necessary, and we appreciate your calm guidance through this.
All right.
Let's move on then to new business item 1, review and possible action concerning designation of President Pro Tempore.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. With the passing of Director Lohman, we lost our President Pro Tem. We have not been able to fill this position to date. And we're realizing it's important to have a President Pro Tem that can jump in if the current president is not available to chair a meeting. So we're asking the board tonight to designate a president pro tempore.
Okay, Sid's hand first, Bill's hand second.
I nominate Catherine. Is that possible?
Well, we normally discuss before we nominate, but
Okay,
okay.
all right. I'm sorry. I didn't know.
So you're putting Catherine's name forward?
I am.
Bill?
I may or may not be putting my name forward. It entirely depends on whether my style of making sure the facts bubble up is compatible with what presidents are supposed to do, and with what people want the president to do. But that's what I would do if I had that.
I'm gonna observe that sooner or later, pretty much everyone's gonna sit in this seat. And the way I see the role of sitting in the seat is to ensure that the team gets to have adequate discussion, but with enough damping force to try to get it to converge. And you just saw an example of one where I don't know how well I did, but we got a vote and hey, here we are. But I really see it as more, when I'm in this seat, it's more important that you get your say than I get my say. So that's how I view it. It's not a requirement, but that is, I think, one way to look at it.
I've witnessed Catherine's management of the SAM meetings, and I'm impressed. So I wouldn't mind her becoming the stand in the wings president of MWSD.
Thank you.
Catherine?
I'm willing to do it.
Sure.
I-
We can do that.
That makes
What I
sense.
see the president's role is just what Scott said. Unfortunately, when you're president, you have to be quiet.
I'm not always quiet, but no, it's
I wasn't talking about you. I'm
No.
talking in general, the philosophy of this district. From as long as I've been attending meetings, has been the president's job is to facilitate that everyone has a voice. And the president is the one who has to be quiet.
yeah, there are plenty of times where I have to bite my tongue because we have business to get
Yeah.
through. So
Question. So like you were out of town because of your mom and Catherine did run the meeting, but it's not the same as that
it's
option?
it's an official title and
I
it's
see.
it's so that it's really clear if the
Right.
president can't be here,
Yeah.
who's next. And
Like vice president.
Yeah,
Right.
sort of.
Yeah,
Okay.
except there's no Senate to preside over. Sorry, Catherine. So if
I'm sure Catherine would do a better job of that.
well, I think
You'll learn.
we're all here knowing full well that we're going to rotate through various positions unless, like Peter, you're extraordinarily good
I
at
know.
at the money business.
I would never want that job.
No, it's like I'm sorry, Peter. You kind of stand out with certain skills that may lock you into certain things. But no, I mean we should be pretty interchangeable, and we should learn from each other. And I think anybody can actually run the meeting, and you'll learn when you get that chance that it's different than when you're not running the meeting, and necessarily so, but in a good way. All right. Well, with that, as president, I'm going to designate Catherine as our president pro tem for the remainder of the calendar year 2023. We have more on the agenda, so let me jump back up to the top. All right. We do have closed session. And so with this, we're going to thank the members of Clemens. Can you confirm we have business in closed session to do?
Yes, we have
Okay.
a closed session.
Other reports?
Yeah.
Reports.
Any reports?
Do we have any reports? Please say no. Terrific. So we're gonna,
Oh, we do have one report.
okay,
We got a notice, and this is for the public, that the oral hearings. The oral arguments will be October 5th
For the lawsuit?
yes.
Yes.
for the MWSD versus the rest of us.
No.
No.
Half Moon Bay versus.
I'm sorry, Half Moon Bay, thank you. That Half Moon Bay versus the rest of the coast side. And I think we're going to be posting that on our website with the, so people can zoom in or drive down.
Oh, it's October 5th?
October 5th, and it will be such that, I don't think it's fair, but that's like in the lawsuit game. Half Moon Bay will get 15 minutes to get give its argument, and Montara and Granada combined get 15 minutes. However, since our attorneys are so much better, they can say twice as much of relevance in 7 minutes each than Halfmoon Bay could say in an hour. So, but I would encourage everyone who's watching this to go to the MWSD website to get the details so that you can watch. You do not participate. You're only an observer.
Sid, do you have a question?
Only that I went to put it in my calendar. It says you and Ed are gonna be camping that week.
That's
It doesn't matter, but
That's not relevant for the
Right.
board meeting.
okay.
Okay, let's see. Let's now thank the members of the public for joining us. We're going to take a brief recess and then we'll reconvene to talk about a couple of existing litigation cases, Halfmoon Bay versus the rest of us, and Montara versus the Dow Chemical Company. We'll have an item on public employee performance evaluation for the general manager and conference with labor negotiators with respect to the unrepresented employee, the general manager. If we take any action, we'll report that out after the closed session. With that, thank you for attending and participating, and we are now in recess.
Right, thank you.